Yes, yeah. I mean, it's something I aspired to in my recent past. Did an MBA program at Sonoma State, and that's sort of where I assumed this would take me. Didn't necessarily know that it would happen here at Rams Gate, but I'm glad it did. 5 vintages now. Time flies. Good question. Several. 15, 16, 17, somewhere around there. Right out of college, I turned 21, and that was my first professional year of winemaking. So I decided early on in college that was the route I wanted. I didn't know necessarily how that was going to look. Michigan State University is very ag focused, so I thought growing grapes was going to be something I would be doing. Whether or not that included the winemaking part, I didn't know. So my first short stint right out of college was actually more focused on vineyard management. And that's all I've ever, since then. That was probably a couple weeks. It didn't work out. But for the last 15, 16 years, it's just been just winemaking. Right now, we only have 27 acres. The property itself is 135 acres, so we do have room and thoughts of expansion, but at the moment, it's just 27. Ramsgate is uniquely positioned, as you kind of stated at the beginning. So we're right off a main corridor coming into wine country. So from the very beginning of the business, starting in 2011, I do share the same value that we have an opportunity to engage and introduce people to wine sometimes. Not every customer walking in the door is a sommelier or an expert. So I think that creates a little bit of a soapbox for us to make interesting wines that are compelling, but it doesn't have to fit just the mold of being Chardonnay Pinot Noir because we are in Sonoma. To piggyback on that, those are in volume 2 products that we make a decent amount of. I mean, when I say decent, we're only a 10,000 case winery, so we're not huge. Sure. But in volume wise, we spend a lot of time on Chardonnay Pinot land. But we also make Pinot Blanc, which is grown here on our estate property. Sauvignon Blanc, which is also grown on our estate property. My background is Rhones. So at Donnellan Wines, made a lot of Syrah and Rhone blends. So I've continued that tradition here and maybe expanded it a little bit. And then a little bit of Cabernet, because why not? No, it's a unique grape. To me, it's fun to look back in my career of the varieties and the categories of wines I've made. So coming out of college, working in Traverse City, Michigan, we made Alsatian whites, German-style whites. So Pinot Blanc is one of the first varieties I worked with professionally. Fast forward to 2018 when I came here. It's sort of somewhat of a full circle. I'm hoping that's not the whole circle. I'm still have many years left, hopefully, in me. It's a unique variety. I think it actually works really well in this area. We do have a coolish climate. It still was 111 degrees here in Labor Day weekend, which was an crazy temp. Not common, but we do have San Pablo Bay in the morning that really influences the temperature. Overnight temperatures here don't get quite as cold as mid-valley of Sonoma Valley, and then in the summertime we get the nice winds from the Petaluma Gap, so it cools things down. It really extends our growing season, so you can grow a cooler climate like grape variety like Pinot Blanc here really successfully. So what we produce on site is only about a third of what our total production. So yes, we do source outside of here. Upwards of about 24 vineyards that we work with. It's usually very small quantities from a lot of variety. It's sort of like the kitchen sink soup, or just often there's a lot of ingredients that goes into our chef's dishes, and I kind of feel like that's the same route we want to take, is take a lot of very small and very specific ingredients, even if it's all Pinot Noir, but each clone and topography and soil types, to me, are all a little bit different ingredients that go into our soup. That's an interesting question. I've gone through my life professionally, looking for mentors, and I think the wine space is a unique space where lots of people from a lot of different backgrounds end up in wine, owning wineries, have dreams of what that looks like, but not all of them grow up owning a winery or having worked in a winery or in a vineyard. So the people I've worked for, from the ownership perspective, typically come to it from different business backgrounds, which I find very fascinating, and I like to learn from them. In your industry that you came from, how did you handle this situation, which is still a business equation that we need to figure out in our wine space. Joe Nielsen sold paper. The owners of Rams Gate come from very, very different backgrounds. So it's an opportunity for us to learn. I've only worked in the wine industry, so my view of the world is through that lens. So there's still things that I can learn to make us a stronger business. Yeah, I mean, I think you can't be in this industry and totally be blind to it. It is an interesting dance to walk and understand it, and knowing that it's both objective and subjective. I mean, any evaluation of wine is, unless you're just looking at the chemistry. It seems to be less important than maybe it was 20 years ago when there was one or two voices in this space. However, I still value that feedback. I think it is good to hear what Antonio Galoni has to say, what does Jeb Donick have to say, what does the reviewers at the Advocate have to say, Spectator, et cetera, et cetera. So what I do like is that there has been a little bit of a proliferation of this, that there are a lot of people in that space, so now you get tons of feedback. So it's just part of life, I would say. I don't particularly like to sell our wine based on just a score. I think what we're trying to do at Rams Gate's unique and special, and we're really trying to carve our own path. There's brands that when I came to Sonoma originally, I always wondered, why aren't these people getting these crazy good scores? These are some of the best wines I've ever tasted in that category. And the winemaker and the company stuck with it, and they didn't break from what they felt like was quality or exceptional. And 15 years later, now they're getting that recognition. And I think part of what we're trying to do is build history here. And to me, I'm always fascinated by brands that have been around for a really long time, like hundreds of years. How did they stay relevant that long? And were they trendsetters at the beginning? Not all of them were. And then at some point along the way, people are like, wow, these people have, there's a track record here. There's consistency. Looking back 20 vintages, I can see the thumbprint of that winemaker on that wine, and it's unique and special, and people want it. So to me, there's this fine dance of, do I do a style that is a style that I've already seen, or do we make it our own? And trying to know that line is tricky. I think as an industry, we've tried to move away from the idea of a belly-up approach. What I'm trying to avoid as the GM of Rams Gate and sort of maybe one of the first stops coming from San Francisco is, yes, appointment is lovely. It helps with our business to know who's coming. But I want to be an equal opportunist. I want people to have an opportunity to, on a whim, say, hey, you know what? I've been driving by Rams Gate. I want to come in and see what's going on. Or I've never tasted wine in my life. Let's try this out. It's here. So I don't want to put the restraints on visiting us. We are open to the public. We are excited to meet people every day. So I think in general, the wine industry thought all these reservation only ideas were going to be really good. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think some people come here to go to the Redwoods, and then they think, oh, it would be also nice to try out some wine, and I want that opportunity to exist. So we love reservations, but we will accommodate as much as we can. That's why we have this space. If we didn't want people here, we wouldn't have built what we have here. RamsGateWinery.com.
That's a pretty easy one.
Yep.